In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Hail Mary, full of grace.
The Lord is with you, blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Very good evening, my dear sisters.
Good evening, Father.
So this month we are going to reflect on poverty. Okay. Last time we did it on obedience and poverty in view of the kingdom. Last time I explained what is the kingdom. Kingdom is the vision of Jesus. And Jesus came to institute that kingdom. And this kingdom should not be understood in the secular sense, I told you. Kingdom for the poor, kingdom for the oppressed, kingdom for the marginalized. And that's why Jesus is found, the last time I said, mainly in the company of the poor. So this kingdom is a kind of a contrast community. It is not a royal community. It is not the elite community of the Jews, but it is a contrast community. So the kingdom is always understood in the Gospels as a contrast community, in the sense this community Jesus wanted to give priority for the poor, preferential option for the poor. And for that kingdom, obedience. Obedience to the Father. Last time we reflected, and in continuation of that, this month we are going to reflect on poverty. Poverty in view of the kingdom, I am giving within bracket evangelical poverty. You know that all the vows, religious vows, according to the church, they are evangelical. What is evangelical? I am giving in the next sentence, life of Jesus is what we think or speak about as evangelical. Life of Jesus becomes life of the consecrated people. So this is evangelical. What Jesus lived and what Jesus did, we try to do that. We try to imitate him. That is why we call all these three as evangelical counsels. And so this is not merely a poverty which we see in the world. This is evangelical poverty. Doing it with willingness. Doing it with our own will. We are not forced, we are not compelled, but we do that with love for Christ. And this is evangelical poverty in view of the kingdom. And in the next line, we see lifestyle of Jesus becomes our lifestyle. And that's why we see obedience as we reflected last month. And this month, we see the lifestyle of Jesus is the lifestyle of poverty. And so, we are going to see from Rule of Life number 13 to 16 what our congregation speaks on evangelical poverty. Rule of Life number 13, we see Jesus was born poor. You know that. Just now I told you. Why this poverty? What Jesus did, I am trying to do. I am trying to copy him. I am trying to imitate him. I am trying to speak and trying to do what Jesus did for me long back. And so Jesus was born poor. And we are not sure, I am not sure how many were born poor. But this is not just an economical poverty, this is more than economical poverty, and very specially it's called for the life of the gospel. Jesus was born poor. And the second sentence you will understand specifically, he lived poorly. He lived poorly. And there was a lot of opportunities, lot of also possibilities for him to become a king, but he was not for it. When he did miracles, when he preached as a big preacher, when he made difference by his preaching, by his doing, by performing lot of miracles in that society. People wanted to make him a big leader, but Jesus was not for that. He lived poor and he lived for the poor. And that's what the second word says. He lived poorly and died in utter destitution on the cross. You see, whatever we say and whatever we speak, we connect to the cross. That is our spirituality. Destitution with the cross or on the cross. So it is not living verbally poor, but practically poor. In his actions, he was poor. And so Jesus died in utter destitution on the cross. It continues, possessing nothing but receiving everything from the Father. He was not a material minded. He was not a person to accumulate things or to have things just for pleasure. He emptied himself in that beautiful hymn, which we call as the hymn as our own life, letter to Philippians chapter 2 from verse 5 to 8. We see that Jesus emptied himself. And this is what is given here in another term. He possessed nothing but receiving everything from the Father. It continues to say he shared with the humanity. He shared with the humanity. Not just keeping it for himself, but he was always a sharing person. He shared that love that he received from the Father. He shared that power. He shared that grace that he received from the Father, and he shared it with the suffering humanity. And so Jesus is a person who is becoming a model for our life of poverty. Rule of Life 13.1 says, evangelical poverty freely chosen. When I began the talk this evening, I told you, all these evangelical counsels, you have opted for it. You have taken it willfully and with your own, freedom, and you were never forced. And that's what we speak here. Evangelical poverty freely chosen is for us a participation in the poverty of Christ. And so your poverty and the poverty of Jesus are not two separate things. We are taking part in the poverty of Jesus. And so it is true that we also try to imitate him. When you take part in the poverty of Jesus, it's clear that you imitate him and you try to imitate him, you try to follow him. Recognizing our dependence and claiming nothing as our right. You see, a religious person will never claim anything as her right, as his right. He will not say, it's my right. So even that belongingness or even that thing which becomes your right, you denounce it for a greater purpose. For a greater purpose. You denounce it not because you should not have that. For a greater purpose. There is something bigger than that or greater than that which you need to do in your religious life, in your consecrated life. And this is what we see as our right. We gratefully accept as a gift all that we are and all that we have. All that we are today is a gift. All that we have today is a gift. So gift is a gratuitous gift. God has given us all these gifts so that we may share that with others as Jesus did. So whatever you get, whatever you receive, my dear sisters, let's learn to share with the needy, with those who are in need of that thing, property, or even our goodwill. If you have a talent, please share that. If you have a skill, please share that. If you have a possibility to receive something for your own use, when you denounce that, that is an evangelical poverty because you do it with a purpose and with a greater purpose. 13.2 we read, we share equally in the poverty of Jesus on the cross. So it is not following the historical Jesus alone. Also we take part in the sufferings of Jesus who is on the cross. You see, poverty could be also copied. Poverty could be also imitated on the suffering Jesus, crucified Jesus. So our poverty goes up to the cross. It is not just, when we are okay, when we are fine, that we practice poverty. Even when we suffer, when we are forced to do something that becomes a trouble for us, that becomes a kind of a suffering for us, please take it as God's will, and there you also practice the evangelical counsel of poverty. This is what we read here, and it continues to say, when experiencing our helplessness and our limitations in the accomplishment of our mission. Brothers and sisters, we have every day our own sufferings. We experience our own limitations. We read here our own helplessness. We want to do something better, but unexpectedly we are not able to do that. By the end of the day, we think that we are helpless. So that helplessness should tell you that we are not everything and we are not the owner of everything. Finally, we receive the mission from Him. If that is His will, let it happen. So the poverty here, not making ourselves bigger, but making Christ bigger. So this is also another understanding of poverty. We surrender ourselves to the power of the Spirit. You see, beautifully it's said, we surrender ourselves. When you feel helpless, you surrender yourself. Let God act. Let the Spirit perform. And let His will be done. Not with all our force, with all our strength. I want to accomplish. I want to achieve. I want to finish. When you think that you have failed, please surrender yourself, and that is also another act of poverty. His power acts even in our weaknesses. Rule of Life says. His power acts even in our weaknesses. And Paul would say, no, only in the weakness I will realize the power of God. Only in my weaknesses. Only in my weaknesses. So before God I am a weaker person and I am a fallible person. The very acceptance of it is also the greater understanding of our poverty. 13.3 says, poverty lived after the example of Christ frees us and makes us available for the accomplishment of the mission. My dear sisters, if you think that you don't have anything, you don't own anything, but you own Christ, that is poverty. When you think that you are not free to own something which the world says, take it, enjoy it, experience it, find pleasure in it, you say no to it, but you say yes to Christ. You see, this seems to be a contradiction, but this is what we call as evangelical contradiction. This is not the worldly contradiction, this is an evangelical contradiction. The world invites us, come, take it, feel free, enjoy. But at the same time, Christ says, you must deny that. You must say no to it. And I say yes to Christ and no to the world. That is also another thing by which I can live the evangelical vow of poverty. 13.4, we see here, by God's generosity, we experience already the beatitude promised to the poor in spirit. Matthew 5:2, Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor in spirit. This poor in spirit, also attitudinal poverty is linked now. Attitudinal poverty. Practicing poverty. Saying no to the pleasure. Saying no to the wealth. Saying no to my own plans and my own agenda. When I say no to that, I always say yes to Christ. And this is what we read. By God's generosity, we experience already the beatitude promised to the poor in spirit. So it is the poor in spirit that is promised to us, that theirs is the kingdom. There will be the sons and daughters of God. These are the blessings or rewards given in the Beatitudes. We know that. Naturally, when we practice this poor in spirit, you may be a person who has been eliminated from this world, from this society, but you become daughter of Christ and son, and as we say that the children of God. And my dear sisters, rule of life number 13 is inviting us to take this vow of poverty with openness, also with willingness. We'll go to the next one, rule of life number 14. We read, by the vow of poverty, we bind ourselves not to use and not to dispose of temporal property. You know what is temporal goods? These are not eternal. These are not eternal. They are not everlasting. Only them we call as temporal. Temporal. Tempus means timely. Only for a certain time it will be there. Temporal. It will disappear. It will all go. And these days we listen to those gospel readings. Nothing is permanent. Beauty is not permanent. Your structure is not permanent. Your look is not permanent. So there are certain things permanent and there are certain things not permanent. And we are called to choose eternal things. Eternal things. You see here, by the vow of poverty, we bind ourselves not to use and not to dispose of temporal poverty, estimable in money, without the permission of our lawful superiors. Lawful superiors. So it's a struggle, I know. In today's context, when we read all this poverty connected to all these practices, all these rules, all these rules of life, I know it's a big struggle. But again it says, you should seek the permission of your lawful superiors when you want to deal with money, when you want to deal with temporal goods. Whatever we acquire, whatever comes to us, in any way belong to the institute. You see, that is what comes the community life. That is where comes the religious life. Whatever you get belongs to the community. And I know, even in our seminary, when we get something from a guest, we bring immediately to the dining hall. We bring it to the dining hall. Okay, there are certain times when we want to have it and we want to eat it alone. Okay, it may also happen. But even in the seminary, when priests are living together, forming a community of priests, we do that. When we get something, we bring that immediately to the dining hall. Suppose we give something, I take it to the fathers and say, this is from the Holy Cross Provinciate. This is from the Novitiate. This is from Ashirvad, another house also. Yeah. So, okay. So what I'm trying to say is, whatever I receive becomes common thing. So that, openness or that desire, to share with others, this is also another practice of poverty. Another practice of poverty. Whatever we acquire, whatever comes to us in any way, belong to the institute and must be put in common for the use of all. I think, my dear sisters, you are doing that, isn't it? Even when you go to Puttur church, as you come back, if you buy something, you put it in common. My dear sisters, young sisters, please do that. Okay. 14.1. Before making her first profession, a novice disposes freely what she owns as the act of cession. What is cession? Stopping. The hereafter, there is nothing personal, anything and everything is common. This is what the rule of life calls as the act of cession. Cession means to cease, to stop. Over. Hereafter, a new beginning. Whatever I get hereafter will be a common thing. Anybody who needs that can take it, and it is meant for all, not for an individual. Not for an individual. 14.2 says, each sister disposes freely by a will the patrimonial goods. What is patrimonial goods? That comes from my own father, from the family, Sometimes you have a share in the property of the parents. Today even, girl children can claim they have their own right. Yeah. According to our constitution, it is not just for the male children, also for the female children, they have their own right to claim the share in the property of the parents, in the property of the father. Patria means, father. So patrimonial goods means whatever belongs to my father also is mine. Yes. That is true. But when you take the vow of poverty, what happens? This is what 14.2 says. Each sister disposes freely by a will the patrimonial goods. Another, this is not will in the sense my desire or my determination. Will in the sense you also start writing. To whom it belongs. To whom it belongs. Have you already written the will? Nobody? Okay. If you have if you have property, please think of poverty. Property and poverty should go together. Okay. The patrimonial goods either before first profession or before final profession as per the law. See, mostly this applies to the Western culture. Okay. But even here, I don't think that you don't have anything from your parents. Whatever they leave for you, sometimes parents may not tell you. But if they have written a will that this goes to my loving daughter, that means that belongs to you. You can claim it. You have every right to say that it's mine because my father has given. But even that, when it is known to you, then you make a decision to make it as a common thing. This is what we are going to see also in the next articles. 14.3 says the act of cession and the will can be modified. I told you, the act of cession, hereafter whatever I have becomes. Then will, I own something, and after my life, during the time of my death, from my death, this belongs to somebody. So that can be also modified with the authorization of the provincial and in urgency the local superior. My dear sisters, in the recollection talk, I need not explain all this. Okay, this is more for your better discussion, but being a recollection talk, I just want to tell you that whatever you get here, whatever you get from your own family, whatever you get from your brothers and sisters, siblings, please think that it belongs to the institute, it belongs to the community, and it becomes a thing common for all. That is the spirit we should have when we talk about evangelical poverty. 14.4. Every professed sister retains the proprietorship of her property. This is what just now I told you. Maybe more in the Western countries. If it applies to you, please also follow this. However, call to a greater evangelical poverty with the permission of the Superior General can renounce all the property she actually possesses or may subsequently possess. I think you follow. The request for renunciation is addressed to the provincial who submits it to the Superior General and her council for authorization. If anybody wants more detail in this, you can come to me after the talk. Okay. Rule of life number 15. Very important. In rule of life number 14, we were talking about some of the practical things, guidelines like. Now 15, again a serious thing. You see, a preferential option for the poor is a gospel imperative. What a gospel imperative. If you want to follow Christ, this is a rule. That is what we call as a gospel imperative. Imperative means it's not an option. You need to do and you are supposed to do, you should do. Imperative. It becomes a command. That is what we call as an imperative. It's a gospel imperative means if you want to be a follower of Christ, if you want to copy Christ, imitate Christ, it is a rule. You need to follow by all means. This was also the option of our founders. You see, first of all, this is connected to Christ. My option for the poor, preferential option for the poor is connected to Christ, and then it's connected to my founders. I joined in this institute, saying that I will live like my mother foundress. So what was the life of mother foundress? Here it said, she also acted for the preferential option for the poor, and she lived that. She lived that. If that is the case, what you should do? And the sisters, only activities of humble service are those which brought them close to the poor, but not exclusively. So whatever I do should bring me closer to the poor. Closer to the poor. That is why time to time we are also asked to check our relationship. With whom I am relating with whom I want to have some friendship. Is it with the poor or with the elite class or with the rich people of the society? Suppose you realize, yes, my closeness, my association, my relationship is with a somewhat a better class, in the sense economically rich, then I need to check. No, my association and my dealings and my also companionship is to be with the poor, because that is the life of Christ. Second, that is the life and practice of my mother foundress. And so I am here to follow Jesus and her. If that is the case, I need to check, and if I need a conversion, definitely I should turn to the other side, which is the side of the poor, which is the side of the marginalized. 15.1 says, faithful to our origins. We want to be in solidarity with the poor, faithful to our origins. Again, the foundation of this institute. That is what faithful to our origins. We want to be in solidarity with the poor, sharing their sufferings. You see, this is not enough. We go and stand with the poor. We need to share their sufferings, anguish and hopes, and together with them strive to bring about living conditions where justice, truth and charity will prevail. My dear sisters, this is again a consciousness of justice. It is not saying that I have helped a poor man when he was hungry. Okay, that is okay. But there are also social values, gospel values. And Jesus did for the poor. What is that? Justice, equality, and upbringing them. And this also I need to do. That is why sometimes, my dear sisters, we also go and stand in the streets, fighting for justice, raising our voice against inequality or injustice. Why we do that? All because Jesus did. All because Jesus expects us to do. And so poverty is not saying that I don't want this, I don't want this, and what you should do as action. That is also important. So it is not the practicing poverty in the house, also outside the house. In what way you are practicing your poverty? You need to associate with the sufferings of the poor. And we say also we need to fight for their rights and fight for their equality and fight for justice. This is where I can say, yes, I have followed Christ. 15.2. Such an involvement requires from us a daily change of attitude and a conversion of heart. That's just now I told you. For this, I need a conversion of heart. Metanoia. Change of heart. See, sometimes I think it's good. It's pleasurable. It's enjoyable. When I say, no, this is not my life, and I'm not here to be like this, then immediately I am reminded of the teachings of Christ that I should follow Him carrying my cross, but at the same time, preferably and first of all, to say that I have to deny everything which separates me from Christ. And such an involvement requires from us a daily change of attitude and a conversion of heart. Solidarity with the poor necessitates an austerity of life on our part. 15.3 says, in discovering God in the poor, we allow ourselves to be evangelized by them. So who can evangelize? Now you have asked me to give this talk. So I can say that in a way I am evangelizing you. Sometimes you go to the church, listening to the homilies, listening to the preachings, you are evangelized. And sometimes we are also evangelized by our own sisters. Not orally, also when they do something marvelous, when they do something edifiable, when they do something exemplary, we are evangelized. And my dear sisters, here in 15.3 it says, poor people can evangelize you. The poor can evangelize you because they reflect Christ. the poor by their life. They can also convert you. So this evangelization also we should be ready to undergo. We should be ready to face it. So don't think that evangelization is done only in bigger and convenient places like a church or pulpit or places like here. Evangelization also can be done by the roadside. Evangelization also can be done by ordinary people. Such an attitude we should have, that finding Christ in the poor, recognizing Christ in the poor, and that attitude also is very important. And today this is the last rule of life number 16. We see here, the putting in common and sharing of goods are concrete expressions of evangelical poverty, and they are practiced within the community, among the communities, and among the provinces. That is, as I told you, evangelical poverty is making things available to everybody. Not just to me and my room, not just me and my satisfaction. Whatever I get becomes common. This commonality should be practiced also among the communities. Among the communities. Suppose, what is that? You do that, no? Not only in sharing the food, also in sharing your expertise, for example. Sharing your own skills. Common celebrations, for example. Common celebrations like first vows or final vows or golden jubilee, silver jubilee. When you do that, all nearby houses, you come and take part in the preparation of it. So, this is also in a way, experiencing that commonality. And this could be also done among the provinces, that you understand how and in what manner we can practice that. So by which I want to insist once again that commonality is a thing which is also very important when we speak about poverty. 16.1 says, all that we have and all that we are is placed at the service of the congregation for the mission. All that we have, all that we are, is placed at the service of the congregation for the mission. That is important. Not because my sister can enjoy it. Not because my sister can take it. Mission is meant for the people in the periphery, the people in the roadsides. People, those who need our ministry, those who need our service. And this is what very important it says, your poverty should be useful for your mission. Poverty is saying, I am practicing poverty, I am practicing poverty. If you are not doing any mission outside, then your poverty is useless. Your poverty is useless. Sorry to say that. You should go and do that act of renouncing, act of denial, so that somebody may be benefited. Somebody may be benefited outside. And there you can say, yes, my life of poverty has helped this person to come up in her life, in his life. And so we share not only our material goods, but in simplicity all our other riches such as experiences, our professional skills and knowledge, our ideas, talents and capabilities, our time and spiritual gifts. And this is very clear. Even in the community life, one person may be good in the skill of singing. Another person may be in dancing. So whatever you do, for the good of the community, when you contribute what God has given to you, that also becomes another act of commonality. So it is not only in material things we talk about poverty, also in whatever we have received as gifts, as skills, as talents, and we share that for the benefit of the community, for the benefit of the people outside. 16.2. Each sister takes responsibility for her personal poverty. Each sister takes responsibility for her personal poverty. Each community searches for ways of a collective witness to poverty. We are attentive that nothing superfluous creeps in under the pretext of efficiency in our work. You see, efficiency is not the thing. I told you whenever I addressed previously. But the Teresa would always say, from the priest, from the religious, what God expects is not efficiency but fidelity. Fidelity. That is very important. Fidelity is important. Your efficiency is not at all important for Jesus. Jesus would like to see how you helped another person. Even if you have shared your time, when you study, if you have helped another person, and another person sometimes gets good marks, you have got only low marks. Don't bother about it. Your marks are not going to be the rewards in the kingdom. When you have done something charitable, done something good, you have done a greater thing. You have done a greater thing. This is what is understood here. We are attentive that nothing superfluous creeps in under the pretext of efficiency in our work. Finally, 16.3, the sobriety and simplicity of our lives while witnessing evangelical poverty favor context, cordiality and hospitality. So never be ashamed of simple, never be ashamed of being poor and living poor, and whatever we do with the attitude of Christ, with the mind of our mother foundress, whatever we do is for the greater cause of our occasion, our religious life, also living life with authenticity. And my dear sisters, I wish that we all sing together this song. This is a very, very, apt that we sing this song. You are very good in singing, I know, but also, first of all, read those lines. This goes with poverty. This hymn goes with poverty. After you see this, then we will start singing. All to Jesus I surrender, all to Him I freely give. I freely give. And so, my dear sisters, whatever you give, you are not forced to give, you are freely giving. I will ever love and trust Him in His presence daily live. Again, all to Jesus I surrender, humbly at His feet I bow. Worldly pleasures all forsaken, take me Jesus, take me now. What a beautiful hymn. All worldly pleasures I have forsaken. So Jesus, I belong to you. Take me now and take me now. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior, I surrender all. All to Jesus I surrender, make me Savior, wholly Thine. I belong to you. I am not a person belonging to even my family, but I belong to you. Let me feel the Holy Spirit, truly know that Thou art mine. Truly know that Thou art mine, that You are mine and I am Yours. All to Jesus I surrender, Lord, I give myself to Thee. Fill me with Thy love and power, let Thy blessings fall on me. All to Jesus I surrender, now I feel the sacred flame, oh, the joy of full salvation, glory, glory to His name. Okay, I will try to sing and you will all sing, I surrender all. Can we do that? Okay. Dear sisters, this is not choir class. The song goes in continuation of today's talk on poverty. All to Jesus I surrender, all to Him I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him in His presence daily. Again, the next one. All to Jesus I surrender. Humbly at His feet I bow. Worldly pleasures all forsaken. Take me, Jesus, take me now. All together. I surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender. We'll sing the next one. All to Jesus I surrender. Make me Savior, Holy God. Let me feel that Holy Spirit, truly all that Thou art. All to Jesus. All to Jesus I surrender. Lord, I give myself to Thee. Fill me with Thy love and power. Let Thy blessings fall on me. I surrender. I surrender. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender. Finally, the third one. All to Jesus I surrender. Now I feel the secret peace. Oh, the joy of full salvation. Glory, glory to His name. I surrender. I surrender. I surrender. All to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.